A couple months ago, 2 citizen groups asked the Federal Environmental Protection Agency to step in and take care of this leaking fuel from the base because they said that you guys and the Air Force are not doing enough to protect Albuquerque's drinking water from contamination. What are you doing?
Well, let me point out, first of all, that the Kirtland fuel spill has nothing to do with fracking. So let me make that clear. Yeah. Absolutely. It resulted from a bulk fuel facility and a leak that occurred, and we're not exactly sure when it occurred, but we believe it was in about the 60s when the leak occurred, and it contaminated the ground for years. It was first discovered
toward drinking water wells. So what are you doing about it now?
Well, we're doing more than has ever been done before to address this issue. It is slowly migrating toward drinking water wells. And the very first day that I took over as the Cabinet Secretary of the Environment Department, the first meeting I had was with the Air Force. I also met with the Albuquerque-Bernalillo Water Utility Authority on my first day on the job. And I wanted to find out what more we could be doing to address this spill. The Environment Department has been doing a lot of great investigation work in order to understand the nature and the extent of the contamination. It's not, it's underground, so it's not like a tanker that spilled on the side of the road. Right? Yes. And so you have to understand the nature of the problem before you can start designing a way to clean up the problem. So we have done a lot of great work over the years to study the spill. But I agree that we needed to be doing more. And so one of the things
you just approved this vacuum system designed to suck up some of this fuel, but it's not performing as well as you'd hoped. It's only sucking up the fuel at half the rate about you thought it would.
So let me tell you what we're doing. That's one of the things. So what we're doing is we've done a lot of great investigation work, but where we really need to move forward is actual removing contaminants from the ground. And so we have been using, the Air Force has been using a soil vapor extraction system that helps remove some of the contaminants that are in the area between the aquifer, between the groundwater and the surface. They call it the vadose zone. And so we have been using a soil vapor extraction system. It is working. It's not working as efficiently as either the Environment Department or the Air Force would like, but the system is working. It's extracting fluid from the ground. I think we've extracted over 200,000 gallons of contamination from the ground through that soil vapor extraction system so far. But what we're doing is 3 different things. Number one, since I started, we've announced aggressive interim measures, and these are measures that the Environment Department can require the Air Force to implement immediately. There's a larger regulatory framework here that we need to follow step by step before we can require them to implement what are the kind of the final measures to clean up the spill. But through these interim measures, we can implement ways to address the contamination right away. So we've called upon, first of all, to greatly expand the soil vapor extraction system that you just mentioned.
The one that's kind of working.
Well, it's working. It's not working as efficiently as we would have liked, but the system is working. It's pulling contamination from the ground. But what we'd like to do is increase the size of that soil vapor extraction system. So we've called upon the Air Force to increase the soil vapor extraction efforts by the end of the first quarter of this year, by the end of March. Second, what the soil vapor extraction system does not address is the contamination that's actually made it into the groundwater. And so that's the second key component here. We need to begin addressing the contamination that's in the groundwater, which is slowly migrating toward the spill. And so far, since we first detected the contamination in the groundwater in 2007, the Environment Department has not moved forward to actually start extracting any of the contamination that's in the groundwater. And so I think we're ready right now to begin aggressively starting to address the contamination in the water. And so we've required the Air Force to implement a system by the end of June of this year to start treating the contaminants that actually made it into the groundwater. And so those are kind of immediately the action items we're taking. We are taking aggressive action right away to start trying to deal with this contamination now.
We've got just about a minute left. I want to flip to a totally different topic. Just one short question. We've been talking on this program lately about the proposed horse slaughter facility down in southern New Mexico. One of the most recent concerns about this facility is water quality near it, and will this facility pollute water? Is there a legitimate concern about water quality near this slaughter facility?
You know, I have to kind of tell you a little bit about the process and where we're at. I'm currently the decision maker. Yeah. So that's an issue that is currently being addressed, and I cannot at this point comment on what the ultimate outcome of the groundwater discharge permit process will be. It would be inappropriate for me. There's a hearing, the company has applied for a permit. There was a hearing on that permit. Evidence was gathered during that hearing. The hearing officer made a recommendation to me earlier this week. The parties still have...
That there would be too much pollution and that they shouldn't...
No, her recommendation was that there would not be, and that recommendation is her recommendation. The parties are still commenting on it. She recommended denying the permit, but the basis in which she based her recommendation was not on the potential environmental contamination. It was based purely on her belief that the company had a history of non-compliance with the environmental rules. It was not based on a concern over contamination of the groundwater.
So we're going to have to wait and see where that goes.
So I would not be able to make a decision until I get the evidence, and that'll be probably about 60 days.
Ryan, Flynn, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.